What are the legal precedences of a reservation agreement, and can people get out of them?
Yeah, so I think ours is slightly different to how Brian's work, so slightly different from that perspective. So committed buyer that we use is essentially a product built out of feedback from agents that really liked a lot of the advantages of the sort of modern method of auction. But sometimes the time frame for that didn't fit. Sometimes, the seller wanting to have that kind of bidding process and going around it that way was something that just didn't work for their scenario, didn't work for their timescales, and wasn't quite right for them. So from our perspective, it's about putting down that reservation fee, agreeing a period of time that they're going to look at. I think that goes back to what we were saying a minute ago with the conveyancing process of putting in place a realistic timescale that everyone is happy with. Everyone knows what the expectations are and everyone knows what they're working towards. So looking at that reservation period and then looking to move forward from there. In terms of legalities and sort of getting that feedback and that type of thing, from our perspective, it's a 97% completion rate. So it's a very low number of those sales that don't go all the way through to completion. And any scenarios that do arise are generally, it's for a serious reason. We had one last year where the husband passed away from COVID. So, of course, we're going to take a pragmatic view on that situation and look at what we do with regards to the reservation fee in that instance. But, I think it's generally about looking at what we can do, set those expectations. And I think just going back to the sort of emotion and the kind of threats that we were talking about a minute ago, it's very easy for all of us to think about, we see however many sales on a daily basis. It's that one person's, that's their dream home. They're moving, they're probably not going to move for another 5, 6, 7, 10 years. It's easy for us sometimes to think, oh, well, that one's not a big deal, or that one's not a problem, or it's only been a couple of days since this happened. Just looking at that from the other side, setting those expectations, and ultimately people just want to feel that they've been listened to. So if you have then got those solicitor relationships to say, right, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away, speak to the solicitor, I'll find out an update, I will come back to you by close of play today, even if it's to say that they're still looking into it. That's all that people want to hear, isn't it? That they know that something's going on with it.
Brian, a man off the street, a woman off the street, never heard of what's called a reservation agreement. I'm sure it's nothing to do with American Indians on the savannah. What is a reservation agreement?
You're absolutely right. It's got nothing to do with wildlife and American Indians or Native American Indians, Chris. Basically, it is, I think the simplest expression for estate agents, it's a sales memorandum with steroids. That's what we call it. It's basically something that is not designed to force people to transact. It's basically designed to ensure that the terms of the deal that they have both agreed to, which is information they've passed via the estate agent to each other, is trustworthy and honest, so that the sale can start in a fair and balanced manner with a lot more trust. But both parties understand that, much like anything else we agree to buy in life, if they decide to back out and change their mind on that process, which they're perfectly entitled to do, some circumstances, as Bonnie's mentioned, may dictate that. Other circumstances may be prevalent. And if that happens, then it's only right and fair that the other party, that is the innocent party in that, is compensated fairly. And based on that, that's how we've set about putting together a reservation to say, I think from my point of view as an agent, I've always, for as long as I can remember, looked at the process that we have in the private treaty sector and felt it was extremely unfairly balanced in favour of the buyer, because a buyer is asking a seller to commit by removing their house from the market. And, I've been on the receiving end of phone calls as an agent from a buyer saying it's still on Rightmove, it's still on Rightmove, get it out, get it off. Yet no buyer has ever shown that they're committed to coming off the market as well and balancing the process. So it's never started fairly. And that's what we've done with the reservation. We've said, look, you both agreed to do exactly the same thing at exactly the same time. Here is a target date that you're both going to work towards to do everything you can to reach exchange of contracts. And typically we start with a 90-day process. And if something goes wrong that is out of your control, then there's not a problem. You don't pay compensation, you don't pay any penalty. And
so if there's a genuine problem on the survey or the chain breaks,
yep,
that's fine.
Out of their control. So, I won't go into the ins and outs of it now because we haven't got long enough, but essentially there are four main areas that we recognize I recognize as an agent, we as a business recognize that typically are the ones that cause issues in a sale that are beyond people's control. Survey being one of them, chains being the other, mortgages being the third one. But actually, what we have found is that, understandably, not everyone signs a reservation agreement because it does also test someone's ability to be truthful and trustworthy from the very beginning. So at least, even without one, a deal can start with the full picture so people can make the right decisions. And that's really the best thing about it.